So thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. So I'll tell you a bit about myself, why I decided to run, and what I'll be running on. I'm Ryan Melton. I live here in Nevada, literally 2 minutes away. I'm a father of 2 boys, and I'm a husband. I have a 16-year-old Nigel and a 3-year-old Lincoln. We call him Bubba. I don't really know why, but it fits. Half the time I call him Turkey because he really enjoys breaking everything in my house, but thank goodness he's cute. So I manage a team of insurance professionals at a Fortune 100 company in Des Moines, but I work from home here in Nevada. I earned my bachelor's degree in history and political science from Iowa State and my master's in U.S. history from Kansas University. I was born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska. Yes, I'm a Nebraska fan, but really you should just feel sorry for me because it's been pretty rough. I still have the 1997 national championship to watch on YouTube, so, you know. But, I've been asked to run for political office from time to time, but with my work and family obligations, I've always found reasons not to. But for me, January 6th changed everything. January 6th, the rhetoric and subterfuge leading up to it, the Republican Party leadership response after it, were all such brazen attacks on our democratic processes that I felt I couldn't stand on the sidelines any longer. Our nation should be a shining example of what a good democracy can do for its people. Our democracy should be non-negotiable. But clearly that's not the case today. And we've seen that very recently in the lead up to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. How many thought leaders on the Republican side thought democracy was negotiable? Considering the precarious position our democratic institutions are in right now, there's no more important time for people who normally don't get involved to do so. And I'm the primary example of that. So what am I running on? Well, the reason democracy is so important is it gives those who need help and advocacy the best fighting chance to live lives of dignity and fulfillment. And right now in the 4th District, there are far too many obstacles between our people and the lives they work hard for and deserve that I will work to address. People are burdened by a lack of healthcare accessibility. Glenn talked about how many rural hospitals are at risk right now of closure, right? We're burdened, obviously, by high costs, both prescription costs, healthcare costs, high deductibles. Our parents, our families, we've heard a few times now how difficult it is to start a family in the 4th District. One of the reasons for that is how there's a really big lack of affordable and accessible childcare for our parents. In public schools, we've seen a lot of this recently, obviously, at the state level. There's a fight right now to keep our public funding in our public schools, right? And, for a number of people in our district, we've talked about shrinking populations in our district. We've talked about all the reasons why that happens, right? Public schools are really each kid's fighting chance to have that opportunity that Senate candidate Franken talked about, right? That everyone should have that opportunity, that fighting chance. I'm a product of public schools. I lived in poverty my entire life. I'm the first person in my immediate family to go to college. I got a full-ride scholarship to go to Iowa State, and I thank my public schools for that. Our landowners are under threat of eminent domain abuse in the 4th District. Obviously, we've heard a lot about carbon capture pipelines, and that's going to be a really big issue in the 4th District. A lot of people are talking about it. If you've seen some of the maps of the proposed pipelines, there's a lot of people here in the 4th District that are really going to be impacted by those. And as of right now, one of the companies that's filing for a carbon capture permit, they only have about 2% voluntary easements right now for the land that they would need to put those carbon capture pipelines in place. So a lot of eminent domain risk there. Also, John, can I be president of the John Norwood fan club? Can I apply for that? Is that over there on the signature table? Every time, we'll fight outside later for that mantle, but our farmers continue to face monopoly power in the ag industry as well. That's leading our farmers to accrue massive debt and to eventually leave the farm. While our communities and environments suffer the downstream consequences of that as well. John talked about how our ag sector is out of balance, right? There's a lot of great metrics when you look at our ag sector. But another thing that really jumped to my mind when I was listening to Professor Norwood, as I call him, at least in my mind, speak about it, was the lack of competition. If you have a lack of competition in any industry, but also the ag sector, of course, competition drives accountability. And if you don't have any, we can't drink our water anymore. We can't swim in it anymore. We're not going to eat the fish that we catch in our waters anymore, right? So we need to drive accountability, and we do that by driving and fostering competition. Our child care workers and our teachers are being disrespected, both with low pay and as pawns in culture war battles that do little to help people and much to divide them. Our LGBTQ+ community faces erasure via book bans and exclusion. People of color in Iowa face much higher rates of incarceration than whites do, even though that we engage in the particular activity at similar rates. Women in Iowa don't have the legal protections they deserve. Too many Iowans, too many workers here are not being paid commensurate with the value they bring, and they continue to face dwindling protections in the workplace and restraints on their collective bargaining power as well. Iowans that rely on Social Security benefits worry about the long-term well-being of the program. So the thing is, though, is we have the resources to solve these problems, right? In the 4th District, we know the odds are really tough for the Democrats. And I think a big reason for that is the Republican Party for so long has been fostering this narrative that the government's not going to do anything for us, right? The problem is the funds are there, the resources are there, but we see Governor Reynolds doing a victory lap at slashing tax rates. Kansas did something very similar a decade ago, and you may know what happened there. Their state cratered, and they had to reverse those tax cuts. But those are where the resources are to help people that really need the help. The money's there, the resources are there, it's just about having the collective will to make it happen. So, considering all that, the fact that via their rhetoric, tax policy decisions, and focus on culture war battles that do nothing to help us, many of our politicians in power just care a lot more about maintaining power for themselves. But I'm going to run to put people first instead. So many have asked me, why run when the odds in the 4th District are so tough? Well, first of all, I've been an underdog my entire life. As I mentioned, I grew up in poverty. I'm the first person in my immediate family to go to college. I got a full-ride scholarship to go to Iowa State, and I earned my master's in U.S. history as well. So I really relished the underdog role. I love Deidre. I thought Deidre did a great job today, but she didn't mention the 4th Congressional District. I noticed that, and that's okay. I love Deidre. But, I get it. The math's tough. I get it. But, in 2018, JD almost won that thing. And I can do it, too. All right. So regardless of the math, sometimes the fight is worth fighting for, regardless of what the odds look like. And also, no one party holds the monopoly on common sense. It seems like a lot of the conversations I have with people come back to this. How are you going to get independents and Republicans to vote for you? Well, you can apply a common sense principle over and over and over again to every policy decision that Senator Feenstra has taken a stand on. And the common sense principle falls apart rather quickly because his words don't align with his actions. The people that I door knock on, the people that I ask for signatures from, they care for their neighbors, and because they care, they're worried for them as well. I've listed a litany of reasons why they're worried. So beyond just being a glutton for punishment, relishing being an underdog, and fighting the good fight regardless of what I know the result may be, in the short term, I'm running because if our people care about their neighbors, we too need to care, not just in word, but in deed. We need to show those in the district with waning hope that we will always fight for them. With a good fight comes the fostering and growth of hope. There's also hope in the short term, in that even those on either side of the political spectrum are starting to see Randy Feenstra's stances for what they are, disingenuous and not representative of what we need here in the 4th District. Whether it's his allegiance to corporations over landowners, his desire to line the pockets of the wealthy with more tax cuts at the expense of those who benefit the most from those funds, or his recent vote against the infrastructure improvements considering we live in a state that has more bridges beyond repair or in disrepair than any other state in the country. So I'll finish with this. I'm running in the short term because I want to win. And I look at what Randy Feenstra stands for, and I see that there's a lot of cognitive dissonance there. His platform is held together with Scotch tape, and I'm going to attack it. Now, I'm not going to run a negative campaign. I try to be a calm, peaceful, civil guy. But the fact of the matter is that policy decisions matter. And people are hurting right now. Okay? Now, in the mid to long term, I'll close with this. The reason why I'm running in the mid to long term is, I'm going back to January 6th. The thing that changed the calculus for me and got me interested in running was just the unprecedented assaults on our democratic institutions we're seeing right now. The Republican Party has looked at the shifting demographics. We heard Deidre talk about the shifting demographics, right? They've seen the demographic shifts, and they've made a decision that they cannot beat us on policy. So instead, they're beating us on culture war, social wedge issues instead, and on voter suppression. This anti-democratic move is going to break the back of the Republican Party at some point. I don't know when, and it may be a bit longer in the 4th district, considering the math. I get that. But at some point, the Republican Party is going to break its own back. And when it does, those voters are going to look for the other option. And if we as Democrats are not fighting the good fight, regardless of what the odds are, why would they trust us to support them and help them? So I'm running on a campaign of putting people first. And I ask you to join me. One final thing. If you haven't signed yet, please do so. I got in a bit late. I wasn't planning on doing this with my life. I really wasn't. But it was the right thing to do. It was the fight worth fighting. I don't have another Dem running against me, which is the primary reason I decided to run initially, because it would be absolutely untenable if in November there's not a Democrat on the ballot. What a terrible message that would send. So my ask is this, and I apologize to the timekeeper. Your arm is probably very tired right now, and honestly, I don't even see where you're at. But there you are. No, your arm's really strong. You're doing fine, but I'm almost done. My final ask is this. The filing deadline for my signatures to get on the primary ballot is Friday. I need to get 1,726 signatures. I'm roughly at probably about 1,350 to 1,400. Considering I got into this late, considering no one knows who the heck I am, I'm pretty proud of that. But we got some work to do. I'm going to be hitting the road, driving all around Northwest Iowa, trying to get to that threshold. I have a number of people in here that already helped. Thank you, Gina, and others in here for helping on that front. But if you know anyone that might be interested in gathering signatures for me, signing, it's a very simple process. Just let me know. I'm at melton4iowa.com. The 4 is spelled out. My email address is melton4iowa, the number 4, at gmail.com. So reach out to me if you know anyone that might be able to help. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Drive safely.